This will change what your lips look like for sure. If you get nothing else, get that. It's a miracle worker. In today's video, I'm going to teach you some makeup tips and tricks. We're going to do a full face and I'm going to show you all of my tips and tricks that I love, and I hope you learned something. So let's get started. We're going to start with sunscreen. Everybody needs to wear sunscreen, so if you're not, definitely start. I just have to tell you that I have had melanoma actually on my stomach, and I had to have that removed, and it was a huge cut. I've had a lot of moles removed that were cancerous, and precancerous. I definitely recommend always wearing sunscreen. Even if you're like thinking, oh, I'm just going to be indoors all day, even the sun from the window can come in and affect your face. One saying that I heard one time that it just like sticks with me is never go outside without something on your face. Meaning, don't go outside without sunscreen. This one I'm using is Bubble, and this is the tinted one. And this is probably one of my favorites. I have really oily skin, so this one's really nice. It just blends in really well. It looks really good. Another tip that I like to do is have just like some normal sunscreen, like body sunscreen, and then put some on your chest, like just when you're already doing your face. It's easy to just grab it real quick. Okay, my next tip is just applying some bronzing drops or something that's just a little bit darker than your skin tone, just to give you some color. We already have the tinted sunscreen on, so you may not even need to do that if you have that on, but I just like to apply like the L'Oreal lotion. The way that I apply these, and this is actually another trick, is I don't like to always put it all over my face, but I kind of put them just where I would put like bronzer anyway, and just kind of rub it in there. So like right there on my cheek. So see, like it looks really pretty like that, and it's not like my whole face is covered in it. So I think that's a really good tip. A little bit kind of there, and then I'm just going to do some on my forehead, just like I would with like a contour or a bronzer. Maybe a little bit under my chin. I really like to contour like my jawbone like that, but I'm just going to put a little bit up here, and it just looks really pretty, like you're bronzed, but it's not like I said, your full face. The biggest tricks and tips I know is placement of product. Okay, so I think that looks really good and that looks really pretty, and I could even just like go out the door like this. Like I would totally go grocery shopping looking like this. So for my next tip, this is mainly for oily girls. Anybody can do this if you want your foundation to just last longer. So I really like to put powder on before my foundation. I'm going to use a really thin translucent powder. So this is the bareminerals original mineral veil, and so there's no color. It's very, very fine and thin. I mean, you can't even barely see that, but it's just a little bit of layering over that oil before we put foundation on, and it's going to be all slippery. Keep it staying all day, and I just dust my whole face with this. I'm just so oily that doing this really just helps mattify my skin a little bit, makes it smooth, and I feel much more prepped for foundation now than before when I was like really slippery. For foundation, my trick for that is less is more, and it's taken me a long time to realize this. I know so many people are saying the more foundation you put on, the more flawless you can look, but for me, especially oily, like I have learned that less is more, and less looks a lot better. So I'm just going to do a little bit, especially with the layers we already have on. Like I don't need a ton more stuff on, you know, so I'm just going to cover some of these areas. Some people like to just use concealer in this step, and you can do the same thing. We just want to start out really little, and just a little bit. So that wasn't a full pump at all. That was probably half a pump, if that. And I'm just going to blend some of that in, especially on like my red areas. And there we go. Like that looks good to me. I don't feel like I need a ton more. I feel like my skin is evened out. I just think it looks really good. For concealer, if you haven't heard of this is such a good one. Don't rub your concealer in right when you put it on. So we're gonna put some on, and we're gonna let it dry just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do while that's drying is my eyebrows. And for eyebrows, something that I do with mine, because mine are tattooed, I like to kind of outline them with a pomade, and then I have a little pen that I just draw in some fake hairs. Another trick with eyebrows too is I like to have my outer eyebrows really thin, inside a little thicker. To do that, I like to start here, and I kind of outline them first. So I do that downward line right there, and this kind of is going to help give them that shape rather than starting here and trying to make that shape as you go out. That can be a lot harder. So I'm just starting kind of on the edge edge, making that downward line first. And that's how I'm going to get that shape, first of all, before going into the front of them. So I have that. So now it's kind of like connecting the dots. So now I'm going to start in here, and I'm just going to start making this. And I know I've kind of changed the way I do my shape with this part, but basically I do it like that. And then I'm just going to do like connect the dots, and we're just going to connect it to that shape we first did, and there we go. So this, I feel like, is just so much easier for us who like don't have eyebrows, or we have to kind of, you have to draw them on every day. And so this is what's really helped me figure out how to get that shape. And you just kind of keep adding to it, but the beginning is we had right there, and so we know it's going to connect to that upper angle. That's just like the rough draft of my eyebrows. So then I'm going to go in with my pen, and I'm just going to kind of draw in some hairs, and then I'll clean it up with a Q-tip. So I just barely go in and just barely touch there. I don't even know if you can see that on the camera, but it just gives it a little bit more hair look than just a marker. And I've said on my previous video that my husband actually complimented on my eyebrows one day recently when they looked like this, and he has never done that before ever. So this kind of shows like, oh, my husband noticed, must look good somewhat. Okay, so I got my hair like strokes there, and then I'm just gonna grab a Q-tip. Okay, we just follow the angle, just kind of create that shape we want underneath. I very rarely go on top. I don't like to mess up there. I don't know why, but I always go underneath. Okay, now we're gonna blend in the concealer that's dried for a little bit. I'm just gonna use something that I like to use as well, that's kind of a trick, is using this triangle puff to blend it in. A lot of people use their brush and then they use this just for the powder, but I think this helps blend it really well. It really gets in there, and that point can really help that concealer blend into where you want it on your eye. Kind of drag it out like that and up a little bit. Then I'm just going to use the same one and do some powder. That's been blended, that's dried for the most part. I'm just going to do a little bit of powder. We don't want to over powder at this point. That will make it look a little bit cakey. So I'm actually just going to go back in with my mineral veil powder, and I'm just going to lightly put a little bit on top there. Now this is something that you can do in the morning, and then throughout the day you can kind of add to this as well. But I'm going to show you another trick that I do when I'm getting ready to go to work. I'm a therapist, and so I meet with clients in the evening, and so by then like my makeup's kind of worn off and I need to retouch, and I'm going to show you my holy grail product that I use to retouch my concealer. It just helps my eyes, it brings everything together, and then I can go to work at 6 o'clock at night and I look put together, But for now, for the daytime, I just do something pretty light, and it stays really well. Now for nose, a lot of us have foundation or noses that foundation does not stick to, right? It kind of just rubs off. What I've learned is while the foundation is sticky right there on it, I don't like to just put normal powder on top. What I do is I put like a powder foundation on top with a sponge, and that keeps it covered all day. So while it's kind of wet and sticky from your foundation, you want to go in with the powder foundation. And I use this Physicians Formula. This is actually not a powder foundation. This is in the shade Translucent, but it is not translucent. It has color to it. And this is one that works really well. But I used to use like the elfcosmetics powder foundation. That one really works well. Even the Essence one I've used, and that one works pretty well. So anything like that just has a shade, color to it, not just clear. And you just want to use a sponge and just dab right there, right on top of that wet foundation. And that powder is going to cover, and it's also going to adhere with that foundation and stick really well. I don't miss a day where I don't do this to my nose, and it stays. And then I can get a little bit, and then just kind of, sometimes I just go on the outside of my nose too if I didn't fully get a lot of coverage right there. I also like to do sometimes a little bit right here. I have bigger lips, and when I eat and I have any kind of lip product on, it transfers and it goes right here on my chin every single time, and it's so embarrassing. So sometimes I do just a little bit extra powder right there just so I don't get that transferred down. But for bronzer, this again is more about placement. So I'm just going to use this Catrice cream bronzer. This is the Melted Sun cream bronzer. You can do this with powder or cream, but it's all about the placement. So what I love to do is I go down here, I start start here right at the inner part of my ear, and I'll go down and then I'll put a little bit right here on top. So if you feel those bones right there on your cheeks, that is where the sun hits you, right? When you're outside, the sun is coming down and hitting you right there, and it's kind of hitting you around here. So it's kind of silly that we only put bronzer right here and here. That's not where the sun is hitting us. And I just feel like it looks a lot more youthful to put it here. I'm gonna start, and I'm just gonna do a little bit starting in right where my ear is, and just start to build that. We don't want to do too much. Remember, less is more a lot of times, especially as we get into the warmer months. We don't want a ton of heavy makeup all over and slipping and sliding around. Enough to just give us some color. So I'm just gonna add it right there on that side, and then I'm gonna bring it in and just go right underneath the eye, almost all the way to my nose, really. And just putting it there, it just changes. I mean, try it. If you normally just put your contour and bronzer this way, just try to bring it in right here and just see what it looks like on your face, and see if you notice your face look a little bit more youthful, if you feel like it looks a little different. It definitely will. Like, it makes you just look, I don't know other word besides cuter. You know, it just kind of makes this area pop a little bit more, and I just love it. And we're just gonna keep kind of barely bringing that in, just a little bit at a time. So another trick with bronzer is I like to just, with this kind of brush, I like to just go right on the outsides of my nose up to my eyebrow. We do not need 100 steps contouring our nose. Nobody has time for that. We're just going to quickly go right on the outsides of the nose, kind of leave the middle blank, and you can bring it down, you know, right into this area, and then even connect it with the bronzer that you started. And I just think that looks so good. And if you want to get crazy, you can go across your nose, and that kind of makes it look a little even more like the sun really hit you right there. But for the most part, we want to just kind of focus it right here under the eye, all the way back to the ear. We are creating a little bit of an angle, so we're not just going straight, because then that's going to droop down right here. So we want a little bit of an angle going up, but then we go right into the nose, and then we can turn the brush sideways and kind of go up and down the nose and connect it to the eyebrow. So everything kind of gets a little bit blended, kind of contoured there, and then out. I'm gonna put a little bit up on my forehead as well, because this is where the sun would hit us too. And we're just outlining the forehead, the very top of it. We're not going too far down. I see some people sometimes bring their bronzer so far down, and I like to keep it right in the hairline, and even like mess up your hair as you're putting it in, because then you know it's really getting blended back into there. You can fix your hair later. And we're just connecting all of this. So just remember that whole shape we're making right here. Okay, also the jaw. So you don't want to miss your jaw. You will be surprised what it looks like when you contour your jaw compared to when you don't. I always do this step too. So I just bring it right underneath. You want that to be a little more straight, because then that makes your jaw look a little more defined. And right here, our chins and our mouths, what is this? It kind of can hang down a little bit, and so we want to cover that. And so with bronzer, we can just lightly go in right there and cover that a little bit, and then it kind of shadows it. Okay, last trick with bronzer. I know we're doing a lot with bronzer today. The placement under your lip. This will change what your lips look like for sure. So you can use a little brush if you want, even just like a little one like this is a little bit flat. Just get a little bit and outline your lips with it, especially right underneath. I've started even doing around here. I don't know why, but I just love that look. It looks really good, and it makes your lips really stand out. But especially do it right here, right underneath. That kind of creates like a shadow, and it makes your lips look more plump right here, because you got that shadow going on, and it's like they're just so big that they're making a shadow. But then if you want to get more crazy, like I usually do, I kind of go in here, and then I go on the other side. Look at my lips now. It totally changes that, and it makes them look bigger. And then you can do the outsides up here if you want. And sometimes I'll do that if I really am going for a more dramatic look. and that kind of makes those stand out as well. It almost acts like lip liner too. I like to blend it and just almost make it look a little bit messy, and it just looks pretty. I don't know what it is about that, but that's like one of my favorite tricks. You can do this with powder bronzer as well. So next is I'm going to do actually highlighter first. There is kind of a trend going around where you put a powder highlighter on and then a cream blush on top. You can definitely do that. That works great too. But for today, I'm gonna do a cream highlighter and I'm gonna do a powder blush on top. The highlighter kind of stand out well, but it looks blended with that blush. I'm using the Winky Luxe highlighter and I'm just gonna dab some of it right here on my cheekbones, and I usually go up so you can see that C that I make, and then just blend that in. And then like I said, we'll put blush on top of this. So I don't think you have to stick with a powder highlight for this step. You can definitely do your cream highlight. The trick is putting your highlight on first and then your blush. Regardless of formula, I think it's that technique that makes the highlighter look really nice and pretty and your blush look really glowy. For blush, I'm going to use the NYX Buttermelt blush, and this is in the shade Butter Together. So this is like the really, really light pink shade, really pale light pink. And I'm just going to get a fluffy brush and just dab a little bit into this. I know this is really pigmented, and we're just going to go right over that highlighter. Another thing that this does is it kind of sets your highlighter because it was liquid, right? And we're putting a powder over it. We're keeping that glow, but we're toning it down a little bit and we're setting it with the powder. It really keeps that highlighter in place, makes it look really pretty all day. And it's set. So for the blush, placement is also key. So I also do right here, go up. I like to do right here again with the blush sometimes too. This is definitely a place where it can get cakey pretty quickly. So you do want to be careful, and you want to think about how much bronzer did I just put there, and be kind of aware of that with your blush as well. But you can definitely put blush on top of that. The blush kind of just acts like a setting powder in a way, where we're setting the bronzer, we're setting the highlight, and we're using the powder. Hello, spring. We also want to be dragging it up here too, because we're creating a little bit of lift. So for blush, sometimes I go clear up into my forehead because I just want it to all be really connected. Definitely some good tricks there that you can try. And these are so quick and easy. It's just more about the placement, right? For eyes, the first thing that I really recommend, a trick that I do, is always put down some kind of primer or something to hold that eyeshadow in place. So I'm using MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. This is a really good one to just kind of cover up your veins and your areas of your eyes that are a little bit blue and discolored, and just put a little bit on the eyelid. This is also really good too if you're not going to cover your entire eyelid with eyeshadow. At least you have something there to kind of like make that area pop, and then you can contour the rest with a little bit darker eyeshadow shades. The eyeshadow I'm going to use is my favorite recent palette ever. This is Catrice, and this is the nude one in Pure Nude. This was $6 on Amazon. Okay, this one is so good. I would highly recommend grabbing this if you're just looking for a normal nude pretty eyeshadow. It lasts all day, which really surprised me when I got it, because I'm like, for $6, like, yeah, it'll last a couple hours, but it'll probably fade off. No way. This lasts all day, and I'm serious. It's so good. My first trick is that we do not start out here. So we want to get kind of a neutral shade. So I'm going to get this big one right here, and I'm just using a small fluffy brush, and I'm going to start in here. And so when we start in here and we drag it outward, it's creating that definition on the eye, but we're able to stop in time where we're not dragging it down here. So we have that imaginary line right here where we don't want to cross, but it's hard not to cross that sometimes when you're starting out here, because sometimes you can start a little bit too low. So we just want to start in the middle and then drag it inward, and we're just kind of going back and forth, but we're stopping right at that eyebrow. I'm really focused on the inner part of my eye, and the eyeshadow starting right there. So everything that we do, we want to start in that inside. So I just got a little bit deeper shade there, and I'm just going back and forth, and I'm just focusing it right in that corner and bringing it out. And then I'm going to actually show you another trick that's even totally opposite to this. So say that you do want a really dark outside of your eye, but you're scared of dragging that down. Another thing we can do is we want to just get a little teeny brush like this. We just want to get a little bit of the dark shade, and we're going to just do like a dot right there where we want that darkness. You can see that dot I just put right there, and I'm going to do a little one over here. And then what we want to do is just move that dot around ever so slightly, and we're going to blend it now this way. And then this one we're going to blend this way, so we're not blending out. So you can kind of get your fluffier side of your brush, or get a fluffy brush and start to blend that, but now we're going inside again. So there's so much emphasis on blending in here rather than out here. This will naturally blend out here. You're going to naturally get some eyeshadow out here, and it's going to kind of move around just by that motion of blending this in and going inward. You would definitely get some there. But the whole point is we're dragging it inside, and so we're really avoiding getting that droopiness. I'm going to get this light shade here, and I can just use the same brush, and I'm just going to get my eyebrow, but still I'm not dragging it out. So I'm still starting at that highest point, and I'm actually going in, starting the light part on the highest point of the eyebrow. Remember that where you first put your brush, most of the pigment is going to go. I'm going to do a little bit of shimmer, and I'm just going to do this lightest shimmer right here, and use your finger with shimmer. We don't really need brushes. I think a finger is so much better because we can really direct the placement. And we want to just start right in the middle of the eye. Just blend that around on your eyelid, just like that. I am focusing actually even more inward here. So see how pretty that looks? And I haven't had to even clean up right there because I've just blended so much this way, and it looks just placed so much better. Another trick is to use the same little brush, this little end, something like this. We can just get the darkest shade and just use it as eyeliner. So for this, I like to start on the very edge, and then I again go in. Sometimes we like to do a little bit of a lift right here with our eyeliner, and we like to kind of lift it up just a tad, but you can do that going inward. So you are starting just a little bit higher, and then as you blend it, you're going down. So you're starting high and you're blending it going down onto your eye. So you're already creating kind of that shape that goes up, but you're starting at the high point. So you're not going too far out. And that naturally creates that lift. But doing that with a darker eyeshadow with a brush works great. Another trick with eyes, if you didn't want to use eyeshadow to make that eyeliner, you can use something like this to make it. This is the Maybelline Color Tattoo eyeshadow stick. What I like to do, and this is for the brave, if you're brave and you can do this, but I get it. First I do line the top of my lashes just a little bit, just barely getting in there with that, kind of going inside my eyelashes a little bit. So I got some of that there, but I like to put this up a little ways, and then I go right in between my eyelashes. So I'm going in between my top and my bottoms, and I'm just barely putting it there. It's pretty much touching my eyeball, but I'm not gonna rub it on my eyeball. And you just close your eyes and you just run it along the edges right there. So it looks lined, but it's not messy. You don't have to work too much doing too much of a line up here. You're just putting it right in between, and you just rub it in between the top and the bottom lashes. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here. We're just being really gentle, but we can just go back and forth in there. And then you can just leave it like that, or if you want to make it really smoky and smoked out and messy, you can then go in with this small brush, and I even go in between just where I rubbed with that crayon and do this with the brush, and it actually moves that out a little bit more because you have so much pigment in there that it can kind of move it out, and then you just like have so much to work with. So then you can go underneath, you can kind of rub it on the bottom of your lash line, but you have a lot on your brush from picking it up right in between those lashes. Now pretty much everything is lined. I have the liner under there, I have it up here, and I didn't have to be so precise and try to make a straight line. For mascara, I'm doing the Lash Without Limits Essence. This is in brown. Another tip I like to mention is using brown mascara, especially with brown tones in your eyeshadow. Brown mascara just makes it, I just feel like black is too harsh. Definitely get yourself some brown mascara if you haven't tried it, and see if you just notice a difference difference in your eye look. Okay, another trick that I like to do is powdering my whole face at this point. So if you didn't notice, I didn't powder my entire face earlier. Now that I've done pretty much all of my makeup, this is when I'll put powder on, because especially as a very oily person, I get oily so super fast. And so I would rather powder more at the end than at the beginning of my makeup routine, where I'm gonna have to powder at the end anyways. And so I just like to do it at this point where everything's kind of done. I still have lips, but other than that, I'm pretty much done. So I'm gonna use this NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop powder. This is in the shade light medium, and I'm gonna get my triangle puff again. Just get some, and I'm just going to press it right where I'm starting to see that shine. It comes pretty quick for me. If you feel like your blush got a little shiny or your highlight got over too much, now is the time where you can go in and powder where you want that powder to go after everything is kind of set and you know what it's gonna look like. I don't need to do all of here where I did all this pretty work, but I'm just gonna do kind of the areas that I want it to stay matte. I really like to go down the sides right here. That's another great way to kind of emphasize your jawbone. So right there under the bronzer and the blush. You can do this right under the eye a little bit if you need. And now I'm done, and I can see where it's gonna set, where it's gonna stay glowy, and I'm happy with that. So like I said earlier, if you get to the end of the day and you need to kind of just touch up, one of my favorite ways to touch up is using this bareminerals concealer. And I just get like a fluffy brush like this, and I just dab it under my eyes, and it just completely makes it look better. It's crazy. So every time right before I'm going to start with clients, I go and get this, and I just need a tiny bit, and you just get a little bit on your brush and just dab it right under your eyes. It totally brightens your eye up. It covers, it conceals. This is like my holy grail product that I will forever buy, forever. You can do it right under the eyeshadow and the eyeliner, and you just kind of can do this and go up. It is amazing. Like, I love this stuff. If you need some way to touch up throughout the day, or just at the end of the day, or going out on a date, and you just need to do something like that, but you don't want to like cake on a ton of heavy concealer on top of what you already have, this is so good. This is the Well Rested Eye Brightener, but they have concealer too. So they have two different kinds. So just look and see which one you like better. Even like in the morning when I'm doing my makeup and like I'm all done, and then I notice like, oh, my under my eyes got a little bit dark after just what I've, putting on product, I'll just go in with this too. And you just need a tiny little bit, and you just want to dab it right there, and make sure you go up. It's a miracle worker. If you get nothing else, get that. So for lips, what I love to do, one trick I love to do is use a Super Stay crayon or something like this to line my lips. I love to get something like this that is really meant to stay a long time and line my lips with it. It's just so much better, I think, than using a lip liner. I'll just line a little bit with it. Another trick when you're lining your lips is you don't want to go out here. That's going to make your lips look way too big and kind of off, and it's not going to make them look plump right here in the middle like we want. So you just want to do right here, and then down, down. I don't connect them. And then we just do right here in the middle. And that's it. Really be aware of where you're lining, and don't do out here on the outer edges. And then my next trick with lips is use a lip mask. So once you've lined them with something that's like Super Stay or even a stain, use something that's just nice and comfy and moisturizing. And with this, you can just blend it in a little bit and just kind of put a little bit of color. But then using a lip mask to do the inside, it's just so nice. It can be a little bit shiny and satiny, but it's comfy. But you have that color that lasts. This one I used is the Mario Badescu lip mask. This is just the vanilla one. And it's just like all you need. And then your lips look really pretty. A little bit natural where you're not having a ton of heavy like lipstick on. And they feel good. I have one bonus one. And this is totally optional. I know this is not for everybody. But if you want to look a little bit younger and just kind of do like a fun little different look for the day, do some freckles. I have this B color freckle pen. But you can actually use so many different things to do freckles. freckles. I've heard that you can do like cream bronzer and use a Q-tip and just barely dab into there and then just barely dab little freckles on like that. So you can do that. You can even like break your Q-tip and do like that end where it's not fuzzy, but it's just kind of a hard dab like that with it with the cream bronzer. I'm going to use this little freckle pen and we're just going to see what it looks like. I know this can be scary. Less is more with the freckles for sure. So we just want to barely be putting a little bit on just around there and then tap them with your finger to blend them in. You might not even be able to see these on camera because I'm trying to be so careful because I have to meet with clients today and I don't want to suddenly have a million freckles on. Sometimes you can get a little too much. We can go over it with a powder foundation or the blush again, but just adding a couple freckles can just be a fun look. I look like I have a filter on with the freckles. No, these are real fake ones. Hey, and that is all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching all my makeup tips and tricks. I hope you learned something. I hope you try some of these. Watch my other videos, subscribe, and watch for more. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!